Okay, hello everyone. We are back in Europe on our world tour of foods across the globe. And so we've been all over the world looking at different foods in different countries, thinking about what kids eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, for snacks, for desserts in all different countries of the world. We've been learning their flags. Now we're just going continent by continent and looking what some examples of some typical dishes in each continent might look like, and you can start to get a sense of the different staple foods that grow in those places and the different staples that are raised, the animals that are raised in those places that are abundant, and the dairy products that come from those animals in each of the continents. And you can kind of start to get a visual look at what some of these foods look like and why they're abundant in that region of the world. So let's remember where we're at. We're in Sizzle Kids Pillar One, which is all about food, what it is, what it isn't, where real food comes from. It comes from plants and animals. Where you get it, you can grow your own. You can get it in you can buy it in various places, farmers markets, grocery stores, health food markets, supermarkets, all kinds of things. We went over all the different staples like we just talked about. And now we are going over all the different foods and some examples of foods that your friends around the world might eat. Super fun part of this course. And I really want to do this because I want you to get excited about food. Food brings people together culturally. It's really important that you know what real food is so that you can make healthy choices. I believe that we have kind of gotten off track with our food. Our food has been given to us by nature, by God, to nourish our bodies and to do great things for us. And we've really gotten off track with the kind of processing that we've done to it, and made it really into Franken foods that are not healthy for you. And so I really want to combat that with knowledge for you and let you really know what you're eating so that you can decide what you want to eat and not be fooled or not be tricked by something that sounds healthy but is really terrible for you. And the way you do that is by knowing where real food comes from, what food is, what food isn't, where it comes from, how it's used, how it's grown, where it's grown, why it grows in different countries, different regions of the world, and what people eat all over the world. So that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this in a couple different ways. That's why we have two parts to our world tour. The first part was all about the different meals in different countries that you might see. So I gave you six different breakfasts in different parts of the world and six different lunches and so on. And here we're going continent by continent. So I want you to kind of think in your mind about a big globe or a big map and going continent by continent and what your friends there might be eating during their day. All right. So we've been in North America. I chose to do the United States there. There's 23 countries in North America, so much variety. But I chose just the United States to do for North America. In South America, there's a little bit more than a dozen countries, and we kind of went all over South America trying out different things from the different countries, but you get a kind of an idea of their staples and what is used and what's very abundant in South America. And now we're headed across the pond, across the Atlantic Ocean to the beautiful, historied, amazing Europe. And we're going to look at some of the foods that a typical kid might eat in a day in Europe if they were doing a magical trip all over Europe. All right, so here we go. There are 44 countries in Europe. A lot. There's a lot of countries in Europe, and there's a lot of variety, just like anywhere else in the world on any of the continents. So I just picked a few very typical foods from some countries, some of the countries in Europe, and we're going to go over a couple of those. So, first, imagine a breakfast of pastries, right? In many European countries, they're known for their pastries, not just France, like we went over before with breakfast, but many countries. So, for example, in France, you might enjoy a croissant. Right? A croissant. It might be filled with fruit. It might be filled with butter. It might be filled with chocolate, all kinds of different things. It's a flaky bread that you can pull apart. France is really well known for them. You can get them pretty much anywhere in the world, but French croissants are going to be a thing. They're going to be amazing. So you would enjoy a croissant. Maybe if you were in Denmark, which is in the northern part of the European continent, you might enjoy a cheese Danish, which is a pastry, another kind of flaky pastry, but it's filled with a sweet kind of cream cheese. One of my dad's favorite breakfast pastries, a cheese Danish from Denmark, right? If you were in Italy, you might start your day with a cornetto, which is similar to a croissant, but it's filled with like a sweet cream. So, kind of like a mix between a cream filled donut that you would get in the United States and a cream filled croissant. A croissant filled with cream that you might see in Italy called a cornetto. So pastries all over Europe, pastries for breakfast. All right, let's go to lunch. Lunch, we're going to go to France. France just always has such good food. This is a baguette. France is very well known for its baguettes, and culturally, the baguette is a source of pride for the French people. They have a whole um, festival about the baguette, and baguette makers from all over the country come and they make their baguettes, and there's judges, and they judge the best baguettes. A baguette is a loaf of bread, basically a big long loaf of bread. And of course, my French friends are going to say it's much more than just a loaf of bread. But they eat the whole thing in one meal for lunch. They can be thin, they can be thicker. And this one that you're seeing here is filled with ham and cheese. But they can be filled with pretty much anything. Sometimes they're not filled with anything and they just have butter on them. But this sandwich you see here, or this baguette, I shouldn't call it a sandwich. It's a baguette in French, and it's known as the jambon beurre. So beurre means butter in French, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right because I don't speak French. And jambon means ham. So this is a ham and cheese baguette. Very typical on the go lunch in France, and I think you can get them pretty much anywhere if you're in France. All right, dinner. So let's fly down south of France, kind of southeast of France a little bit to the boot to Italy, and a typical dinner you might get there is pasta. Here I'm going to show you probably the most famous, most common pasta, spaghetti and meatballs. Pasta cooked, mixed with a tomato sauce, meatballs made with various spices and usually a breading or an egg to keep them together, rolled up, maybe fried or baked. Spaghetti and meatballs. It's the pasta will be cooked until it's al dente, which means to the tooth. So it's a little bit undercooked, so it's not real mushy. So it wants to cook perfect pasta the way the Italians do it. It's supposed to be cooked al dente to the tooth, meaning it's a little chewy still, and that's perfect pasta. We'll go into that when we're in our pillar three and we're doing a lot of cooking. All right, so that's a typical dinner that you might have in Italy. For a snack, let's fly over to Germany. Now we'll go north of Italy, just north of Italy. Italy shares a border with Germany, and you have the Alps right there with Switzerland. Sorry, Italy and Switzerland and Germany are all stacked right there in the middle of Europe. And when you're in the southern part of Germany, it's called Bavaria, and you may have a snack there called Brezeln, which are big, huge, soft, salted pretzels. And these are common at the movie theaters in the United States, right? Or amusement parks. But in Germany, Brezeln, a soft pretzel, is a whole different experience. I actually was an exchange student and lived in Germany for a year, and I know how to pronounce that one because I speak fluent German. But a Brezeln is a very typical snack that you would get in southern Germany, in Bavaria, in Munich at Oktoberfest, that kind of a thing. So a really fun snack in Europe. And then say, hey, let's fly back over to France because we can't leave Europe without having the French creme brulee that we talked about in when we were talking about desserts. Again, it's a kind of a vanilla flavored pudding with a crispy caramelized sugar coating that is melted and into a crust that gives the whole dish amazing texture, amazing flavor, and is one of the most famous dishes or desserts in all of Europe. So that's what a typical day in Europe might look like. And we are going to go next over or down from Europe across the Mediterranean Sea. Let's look at our map. We are up here in Europe, right in the middle. If you're with a parent or someone that could point out your Europe area, you've got your North America. Let's look at North America. I wish you could see my pointer. I'm circling it with my pointer, but I don't think you can see that. And then South America is right below North America. Across the Atlantic Ocean, where it says food brings people together, that's the Atlantic Ocean. Over here to Europe, which is where we just were talking about creme brulee. And then we're going to go directly south across the Mediterranean Ocean here into the big continent of Africa. And we're going to look at some of the amazing, cool foods that you might see in a day in Africa. All right, we will see you there.